I found my own missing poster hidden in the basement, and now my entire life is a crime. Am I the asshole for turning in my parents? I'm sitting in a motel room right now staring at a set of blue toddler sneakers that shouldn't exist. My name is Jack, at least, that's what it says on my driver's license, my college degree, and the birthday cards my parents have given me for 25 years, but today, I realized that Jack is a ghost, a character created by two people I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. My parents, David and Martha, are the definition of ordinary. My dad is a retired accountant who spends his days gardening, and my mom is the kind of woman who bakes cookies for the whole neighborhood. They've been married for 30 years, and I'm their only child. I always felt lucky to have such a stable, loving home, but there was always one rule in our house, a rule so old I didn't even question it anymore, which was to never, under any circumstances, enter my father's home office. He told me it was because of sensitive client documents. As a kid, I thought it was boring. As an adult, I respected his privacy, but 2 weeks ago, they went on a 14-day cruise for their anniversary. They were somewhere in the Atlantic when the master pipe in the hallway burst. The water was everywhere. It was gushing into the hallway and seeping directly under the door of my father's office. I called them, but they were out of range. I had no choice. I grabbed a crowbar from the garage and broke the lock. The office was exactly how I imagined, filled with dusty books, a heavy oak desk, and a filing cabinet, but as I moved the desk to pull up the soaked carpet, the floor felt hollow. I ripped back the rug, and my heart skipped a beat. There was a heavy wooden hatch built into the floorboards, secured with a digital keypad. I tried their anniversary, but nothing worked. I tried my mom's birthday, but nothing happened. Then, almost as a joke, I entered my own birthday, 0412, which is April 12th. The hatch swung open, revealing a flight of concrete stairs leading into a darkness that smelled like old paper, damp concrete, and a faint, expensive perfume my mom hasn't worn in years. I grabbed a flashlight and went down. I didn't know I was walking out of my life and into someone else's nightmare. This wasn't just a basement, it was a soundproofed bunker. As I hit the light switch, I gasped. The walls were covered in newspaper clippings, but they weren't about my dad's accounting work. They were all about a single event, which was the disappearance of Leo Vance. In September 1999, a 4-year-old boy named Leo went missing at a state fair 3 states away. I started reading the articles, my hands trembling. The parents, Sarah and Thomas Vance, had spent their entire lives and every penny they had looking for him. There were photos of Leo, and he had a small birthmark on his left shoulder just like I do. I felt a wave of nausea hit me. I turned to a small wooden table in the corner. There was a glass display case, and inside were a pair of tiny blue sneakers, a faded fairground ticket, and a worn-out teddy bear named Barnaby. I felt like I was looking at a shrine to my own death. I have a box in my attic right now with a photo of me holding that exact bear. My mom told me she bought it for me at a thrift store, but she lied. I opened a filing cabinet in the corner. It wasn't filled with taxes, it was filled with a journal in my mother's handwriting. The entry from July 14, 1999, said that we saw him today at the park and he is perfect. David says it's too risky, but my arms feel so empty. We can't have our own. So why does that woman get to have him when she doesn't even watch him properly? Then the entry from September 20th, 1999, said it was so easy. The crowd was huge. He cried at first, but I told him I was his new mommy. As I dug deeper into the journal, I found entries that made my skin crawl. My mother wrote about how I started remembering things when I was 6, how I asked for my real mommy and cried for a man named Thomas. She wrote about how my father started putting crushed-up sleeping pills in my milk every night to keep me quiet and make me forget. She described the blank looks on my face with pride, saying that the medication was working and that I was finally becoming their Jack. I realized then that every childhood memory I had was hazy, not because of time, but because I was being drugged by the people I called parents. I found another folder labeled Disposal, and inside were documents about my real father, Thomas Vance. He had died in a car accident in 2005, but then I saw a private investigator's report my dad had commissioned. It turns out Thomas was getting close to the truth. He had followed a lead to our town, and just weeks later, he was dead in a hit and run that the Police never solved. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My biological father didn't just lose his son, he might have been murdered by the man who was currently teaching me how to file my taxes. I felt like the air in the bunker was running out. I looked at a photo of Thomas and saw my own jawline, my own eyes, and I realized he died looking for me while I was upstairs calling his killer daddy. I was still clutching the PI report when I heard the front door open upstairs. My heart nearly stopped because they were home 3 days early. I heard my father's heavy footsteps in the office. He called out my name, but his voice was different. It wasn't the dad voice, it was cold and sharp. He looked down into the hatch and saw me, and we stared at each other for what felt like an hour. My mother pushed past him, saw the open files in my hand, and let out a scream that I will hear in my nightmares for the rest of my life. "Jack, honey, let us explain," she sobbed, reaching down, but I spat out that my name is Leo. My father didn't cry and he didn't apologize. He slowly closed the office door and locked it. Then he said in a terrifyingly calm voice that I think I want to know the truth, but my biological mother was a mess. She let me wander off to talk to a stranger, and they gave me a life of private schools, a college fund, and love. He said if I go to the police, I am not just destroying them, I am destroying myself, because I will be the kidnapped boy for the rest of my life. He stepped onto the first stair and told me to give him the folder, to go upstairs, have dinner, and forget this happened, because they are my parents, the ones who were there when I had the flu, the ones who paid for my car, not her. He told me that Sarah Vance was a broken woman who would only bring me down, and that he had protected me from a life of poverty and grief. I didn't wait. I pushed past him because he is 70 and couldn't stop me. I ran, I grabbed my keys, jumped in my car, and I haven't looked back. I'm in this motel now, my phone is blowing up. My dad sent a text saying he knows my bank account password and can cut me off in a second. He told me that without their money I am nothing and that the world will only see me as a freak. My mom sent a photo of us from my graduation asking if this looks like a lie to her, saying they love me more than she ever could. But then I found an old video on Sarah Vance's page. It was a video of her from 20 years ago, crying at a press conference, begging for her son to come home. She looked so broken, so destroyed, and I realized she has lived every single day in that pain while I was playing catch with her son's kidnappers. I decided to call a lawyer I knew from college, and he told me that if I report this, I could be the key witness in a kidnapping and potentially a murder investigation. But he also warned me that my parents have money and connections, and they could tie me up in court for years, making me look like a mentally unstable person who had a breakdown. I realized then that David and Martha didn't just steal my past, they were ready to steal my future too, just to keep their secret buried. I have the police on speed dial, but if I press call, the two people who raised me go to federal prison for the rest of their lives. I lose my family, my home, and my identity. Everything I built for 25 years will vanish in a second. But if I don't call, Sarah Vance will die never knowing that her son is alive and only 3 states away. I am looking at the blue sneakers on the motel bed and I realize I can't keep living as Jack, but I don't know how to be Leo. I found Sarah's phone number through a public records search. My thumb is hovering over the call button. I can either give a mother her son back and seek justice for a father who was likely murdered, or I can keep the comfortable lie and live with the guilt until it consumes me. My father just sent another text saying, "We're outside the motel, Jack. Let's talk before you do something you'll regret." I can see their car in the parking lot from my window. They found me. I have to make a choice right now. Am I the asshole if I ruin the only parents I've ever known to find a woman who is essentially a stranger to me? Help me decide, because the police are on the other end of the line and my parents are at the door.